Is the merch already set up, right? Do you know? Okay, beautiful. So if any time during this little chat you fancy running outside to buy your CD or t-shirt, feel free to do that. If you don't, it's all good. But yeah, so anyone want to kick it off? Any questions related to literature, reading, anything? There we go, bro.
So you suggest that knowledge is power, which
I do
I'm sure we'd all agree with.
Yeah.
I wonder if you'd share with us 3 of perhaps your most powerful sources of knowledge, and what you consider them to be.
Books, life, and other people, which is sort of related, you know, life experiences. I think it's good being book smart, but if you don't have life experiences to teach you as well, it's kind of useless, because you have to practically apply that knowledge. You can be, you know, the greatest mathematician in the world, you've still got to apply that to something, or the greatest critical thinker in the world. If you're not applying it to something, then it's kind of useless. So I'd say life situations are your biggest teacher first, but then it's what you do with all the other knowledge you get from all the other sources in those life situations. So I'd say people, books, and life. Any others? Thank you, bro.
But the question was, you say you read 1984 by George Orwell, and it says, in a time of universality, telling the truth is a revolutionary act.
He does indeed say that.
What you are doing is a revolutionary act, so salute to that. The question was in regards to 1984, and do you believe that society as a whole now, and all that society includes, as in music and the art, and how it's controlled by corporate entities, I think it's moving towards that complete control of all media and towards that 1984 state and I'd like to views on the state of society?
I'm not sure whether we're moving towards that or whether we're already there, to be honest. When I was a kid, I remember watching MTV, and the most sexual video I remember as a kid, a real young kid, I was about 11. Does anyone remember anyone over 25 in here? I'm 27. So anyone over 25 who was into hip-hop and R&B, I remember there was a Tony Braxton video called I Get So High, and she was wearing a white catsuit. And I'm not going to lie to you, as an 11-year-old, this video disturbed me greatly. And I remember thinking what that did to my hormones as an 11-year-old. Now I'm a grown man, and I think about the pornography, quite frankly, that our young people are consuming day in, day out. Even whether you're doing a great job as parents by turning off MTV, it's everywhere. It's on the billboards, it's at school, it's normalised, it's on YouTube. And so I'm concerned whether or not we're already in that. In that, I'm not going to pretend that there was ever an ideal time when, you know, music was great and it's bad now. But I don't think we can lie to ourselves and say that we've got the Bob Marleys and the John Lennons and the Jimi Hendrixes in the public sphere. I think there's people with those messages, but the difference was, maybe they made pop music originally to get there, but those people were megastars. Those people were the Lady Gagas and Beyoncés and whoever else is of their day. And I don't think it's about being critical of artists, but I think as the public, as people that are going to raise children in this world, as people in the society, I think it's healthy for us. What we've got in London, I don't know how it is up here in Birmingham, I know there's violence up here, but in London we've got a lot of young boys, you know, copying the whole, you know, Bloods and Crips thing from America. Now I'm not saying that they don't already have problems, they don't already maybe live in a crappy council estate, they don't already have, you know, single parent families, there might already be lack of opportunity, there might already be institutionalized classism and racism and whatever else that creates a situation where a young person's looking for identity. But then if that only source of identity is someone telling them, you know, pick up a bandana, go kill other people that look like you, it's not very wonderful. I don't think things were much easier for our parents, maybe even harder in the 80s in terms of financially, but the people they were looking at were people like Bob Marley. You know, Bob Marley died in 81, right? In the 70s, that was who people were looking towards and gravitating towards. And I think we'd be lying to ourselves if we said hip-hop particularly doesn't have an impact. It's interesting because I always hear artists say, well, it's just music. But ultimately, if it was just music, you know, people wouldn't change the way they dress. Most of us in here, young people in here, you know, all from different backgrounds, all from different parts of the world, but our whole entire dress code has been dictated by hip-hop. Every single one of you. Right or wrong? I'm looking around the room, I'm not seeing anyone in any brands that are not remotely related to hip-hop, that are not remotely hip-hop stylish. And so, if it has that much impact on the way we dress, it's certainly having an impact on the way we think, the way we feel. My best example I give young people for this is, Ice-T made a record in the late 80s called Cop Killer. Anyone remember that? Anyone old enough in here to remember that? Now what's interesting about this record is, and this is how we know that the corporate entities do understand that music impacts you, because he got dropped from his label. The record was selling perfectly well, But Dan Quayle, the whole American government stepped in and said, listen, it's not acceptable to put out records that say it's okay to kill the police. Now, I'm not saying that it is okay to do that. What I'm saying is, we've got music all day, every day telling us, you know, to kill one another, and that's considered perfectly entertaining. But should you step out of your box and say, well, I'm going to kill some police this week? The corporations who are happy to tell you music to tell you to kill one another say, no, 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 one step too far. Ice-T, you're going to lose your record deal. The government steps in and says, mate, you can't be telling these young boys in the ghetto in Los Angeles to kill police when we put gun stores on the corners of their neighborhood. Because they can actually do it. It's not like here where you can't do that. In places like Compton, South Central Los Angeles, where Ice-T and those guys are from, there's gun stores on the corner. You can buy an AK-47 from the corner shop. So I would say, yeah, I'm waffling on that answer, but I would say that certainly it's a valid question. I think we should all read 1984 and we should all think about whether or not we're genuinely already at that time, not heading towards it. I know that was a bit of a roundabout answer, but yeah. Time for a few more? Any others?
Following on from the last question, what do you think it is about the current climate that's got artists like yourself, Loki, Logic, West people are, who have got a decent message out there, coming out and getting more listeners and bigger fan base?
I think people are peed off. I think in the 90s, you know, particularly here, we had a bit of a bubble, everyone was doing alright. We kind of got brought off working class people. You know, we got our big screen TVs, we got our PlayStation 3s, and we kind of all shut up. And obviously now there's an economic downturn again, jobs are scarce, money's scarce, people are like, hold on a minute. But the city bosses are getting more bigger bonuses than ever. Didn't they just ruin the economy? And it's right in our face this time. It's not like they're even trying to hide it. It's like, we just messed up the economy, but we're still going to give, you know, the chairman of this and that bank 10 million bonus at the end of the year. No, it's not affecting those people, but it is affecting probably most of the people in this room. So I think for those reasons, people are again looking towards art for inspiration. And so yeah, that's really what I think is the cause of it. In political downturn, you always get that. 20-year cycles. 20 years ago we had Rage Against the Machine and Public Enemy and all those guys in the late 90s, obviously, but they were in the mainstream. The difference is now, even with, if we take a Loki, as popular as he is, you know, 5-10 videos on YouTube with all over 1 million views, able to tour around the world without any radio play, but he's not going to get a record deal, I can tell you that. He's not going to get on Radio 1 anytime soon. And we have to ask ourselves why that is, because he's very, very popular. There's clearly a demand for it. When people say it doesn't sell, I think his career would prove that that probably isn't true. Couple more?
You see with the music situation as obviously like you were saying, that corporate entities controlling music, and how before, obviously in the heyday of hip hop, there was real revolutionary music, and now we're seeing that the remnants of that. So what I would say is, like, you see how in America you have a man like Dead Prez, you have Saigon, and you have a lot of progressive revolutionary musicians. See over there, they've got WRBG, like radio stations full of people, by the people. Now when you're saying that local wouldn't get much radio play, much wouldn't get a record deal, do you think that over here we need to have that awareness so we can start building our own radio stations away from Capital FM or BRB or whatever the radio station out there playing the same old garbage? Should we have our own radio stations that musicians such as yourself through to awake people to raise the awareness of the situation of what's going on?
Yeah, absolutely. I think community radio is all well and good, but what we should also be doing is putting pressure on these bigger entities and saying, hold on a minute, there is a market for this. And it's great that you're going to play X artist 500 times a day, but this artist is clearly popular. The more the people, you guys are in charge. I know we say the corporates are in charge, they're not. If there's enough demand, if there's enough evidence that releasing Loki's album will sell 100,000 copies, then they, believe me, someone will give him a record deal. It's that tipping point. So he's at this point where he is now. The more and more people like you go out and spread the message of what these guys are saying, the more and more popular they become, there becomes a point at which you're unavoidable. That's what happened with Immortal Technique to a degree. When he came here, no radio play, sold out Shepherd's Bush Empire. That's 2,500–3,000 tickets with no radio support whatsoever. So it's also about recognizing that we have the power, and that what you go back to school or to college or to uni and tell people is fashionable, what you individuals do and how you spread a message is what changes what the next generation coming up are going to listen to and what we're going to think is fashionable. Ultimately, yes, there is corporate advertising, yes, it is powerful, yes, they spend billions of dollars, but we got a choice whether to buy into it. We got a choice whether to be on YouTube watching what we want to watch or be on MTV watching what everyone else is watching. So it's a dual thing of, yes, setting up our own avenues, our own radio stations, but also showing the powers that be and the stations that be that certain artists are getting to a stage where they're unavoidable and therefore should be supported.